that you're joining with us, and we thank you for that. We hope you are having a great Christmas season. We told you that we were done with our Bible studies through the month of December, but we're bringing some things to you right now that just are a little bit interesting. You know, it was cool. So last week, Joel and I sat down and we talked about kind of the Christmas songs and all of that, and we dug into Silent Night, and I thought it was really cool that we learned a lot of stuff. And so today we've got Randy joining us, and what I would love to do is talk a little bit about Advent, because for the first time in a while, KidsQuest is doing an Advent thing.
Right.
You know, a lot of because of this COVID, and it was something parents can do with their kids, and it's really cool, and my son has enjoyed it. But I thought we would kind of talk about it because I know I didn't grow up doing any type of Advent stuff.
Right. I didn't either. It's really interesting because, like you said, it was kind of born out of COVID. You know, 2020 has been an interesting year.
Everything's different.
Yes. And so one of the challenges in KidsQuest has been, how can we keep ministry going for our families in this time? And so something that came to our mind was, well, we could celebrate Advent. Like you said, I didn't grow up observing Advent. I grew up early years in the Southern Baptist tradition, and then later, I was in the Christian Church, Church of Christ. That's the school, like the college I went to. And so no mention of Advent at all. So before we decided to do this, I was like, well, I guess I should probably research it a little bit.
But make sure we're not doing something that is like,
Yeah, exactly. And find out, you know, kind of what the situation is. And basically, it's a liturgical church practice, you know. So I found that it's really popular in the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, the Lutheran Church, Presbyterian, Methodists, you know, it's more common in those churches. And it starts 4 Sundays before Christmas.
Yeah, which is pretty much usually the Sunday after Thanksgiving.
Exactly. Like the Sunday after Thanksgiving, And so, they observe the 4 Sundays after Thanksgiving, and then usually have a final, you know, observance on either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, kind of depending on the denomination. But the idea is just to prepare your heart for Christ's coming. It's really very simple, you know. I think the word Advent in Latin means Adventus, which means coming.
Yeah, and I read in that you said it Christ's coming. When it originally started, I guess they were looking at both.
Yes.
The first coming of Jesus as far as baby Jesus, but then they were also kind of looking at the second coming and kind of the space in between where we're living.
Right.
So that's just such a cool thing.
Yeah.
That when we get into Advent and things like that. Like I grew up, you know, independent Baptist, and we didn't do it. And like I said, it was a very liturgical thing, and that's what I have in my head. I picture robes, and I picture like, you know, and it I don't. It's totally not right, but that's just kind of the way I picture it. But it's been kind of a neat thing, and like the resources we used, and just the whole Advent. And then you think about all the Advent calendars, like they got the ones with the chocolate, and they got the ones with the wine, and they got the ones with like toys and all that stuff. It's kind of been an interesting thing.
Yeah, I think like anything else, it's been commercialized. You know, people have capitalized on it. But as far as the church tradition, you know, a big one that I have seen is the Advent wreath, which, you know, has 4 candles around the Advent wreath, and those symbolize each of the 4 Sundays. And then most of them also have a 5th candle in the center, and that symbolizes the one that they light on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So they go around and they light 1 candle per Sunday, and then the final one, Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And each candle symbolizes something different. Like I'm pretty sure that the first one symbolizes hope. And then is there peace?
I found, like I said, it's kind of different. Like I found hope or promise.
Okay.
Preparation or prophecy.
Okay.
Kind of that looking forward.
Uh-huh.
Joy and peace.
Yep, I found those.
Right. And then love.
Yes.
You know, or adoration, whatever was what I. Now I don't know if that's right, because it's interesting. Like we don't really know where it started.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
It kind of just showed up.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, here we go. And I've heard somewhere in the 400s, and then it became really a thing. And then like the Roman Catholic Church adopted it, which is where it probably became very liturgical. But yeah, so that's, and then the 5th one obviously would totally represent Christ if you do it.
Which is why that's the one in the center. Makes sense.
And it's not necessarily something that you keep the candles lit the whole month.
Correct.
That would be, you know, a fire safety hazard. But I just see, we light the candles. But it would be one of those things. But you light them, and you have, you know, there's Bible verses that are tied to each one. There are things like that. So it's really cool, and doing it with our families and kind of talking through that. It's just a very interesting thing. But the history of it is fascinating because, like you said, the Advent wreath is like the church kind of version of it. And it's not a wreath that you hang on the door. It's one that you would sit on the table with, votives and things like that. But then the candles, and I think that's a beautiful symbolism because, dark and light in the scriptures.
Right. Yeah. Light has so much to do with Christmas, They say, to the people living in darkness, a light has come, when we talk about Christ being the light. So it does make sense that you would light one every week leading up to the candle, the Christ candle.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And I always joke, like, Christmas in Ohio is so gloomy because you're not yet, like, we don't tend to get snow.
Right.
And it's all dark and stuff. So, like, the real joy in Christmas is driving around and looking at all the Christmas lights.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so there is this whole light aspect of Christmas. And because I think if you stop and think logically, it is ridiculous that we are supposed to decorate the outside of our house during the coldest time of year. Like, it makes no sense.
Fair enough.
Like, but we do, because then you go by and all these houses are lit up and all that kind of fun stuff. And it's amazing. So kind of walk us through a little bit the KidsQuest kind of version of this and what they're doing, if you can.
Sure.
Like I said, I didn't prepare you, so I just thought this would be fun to throw it at you. But I'd love for us to kind of talk through. So parents, if you have not been doing this with your kids, what a cool experience to do with them. And you can catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. We have these resources available to you. And even though we're a few Sundays into Advent, like, that doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. But basically what we have offered is a wreath, but our wreath is shaped like a snowflake. And we just have this cutout wreath, and we laminated it, and we provided 5 candles for everybody. And so each Sunday you're supposed to put a candle on the appropriate theme of the day, which for us, the first Sunday was hope, and then the second Sunday was joy. And then that leaves love, peace, and then finally the Christ candle. And you light that candle, and then we've provided you with a passage from Scripture, really short, really family-friendly, a couple really family-friendly questions just to kind of get some discussion going, and then you pray. So it's really simple, but it's kind of a neat way to sit down as a family and to do something Christmas-related that's a little bit different than what we normally do. You talked about Christmas lights. I love Christmas lights. Yeah. One of my favorite things every year is for us to get in the car and to drive around and to look at Christmas lights.
Do you guys deck out your house?
We do not. We do not deck out our house, but we love everyone else who does.
We do not like strangers driving by our house staring at the lights, but we will creep on other people.
But we will creep on you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things that we do. And, we have other things we do. There's certain movies that we watch every single year. There's certain foods we eat every single year, leading up to Christmas.
There are traditions,
So what I like about Advent is it's like, this is something else leading up to Christmas that's uniquely focused on Christ, as opposed to a lot of the other things that we do, to be honest, the cookie making and the things like that, it's more the commercial side of Christmas. And there's nothing wrong with that side. But I love that this year I have an excuse every Sunday to sit down. And it doesn't have to be Sunday,
No, do it.
Like,
yeah.
Light the candle whenever you want.
Yeah.
But it's something that you can do that we have done just to celebrate Christ.
It's a nice pause, which was kind of it sounds like that was kind of the original intent of this, was to pause and stop and start thinking about it. Kind of almost to put you in the Christmas spirit type of thing of, it takes 5 minutes. It takes time. I mean, you can make it longer if you want to.
Right.
You can have your kids read it and all that kind of stuff. But just this whole idea of Advent is just it's a really neat tradition. And that's what it is. You got the cookie cutters and all that. We have a lot of traditions that we all have that are not Bible.
Right.
But they're not bad. Like, they're not, I say they're not unbiblical. They're not biblical. They're just traditions, lights and cookies and all that. I mean, all my cookies are shaped like the nativity. We have shepherds and we have what? No, we don't really do that. They're shaped like, that would be weird.
That'd be pretty funny.
I ate the shepherd. That's weird. But yeah, so it's just a cool thing. But the history of Advent is kind of, they don't know where it started, but then we see like it has kind of become, like you said, a liturgical thing. And then being able to take it and make it for kids is a really cool thing where it doesn't necessarily, because a lot of people hear liturgical and they think boring, and that's not true, because it's lighting candles about Jesus. And who doesn't as a kid love to play with fire?
Absolutely.
So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
I asked Weston, I said, Weston, do you want to light this candle? He goes, no, I don't want to, because we just had matches, and it was like, But that's Advent, and so it's really kind of a cool thing. And then you could celebrate it a lot of different ways. I would challenge you to do it in a way that celebrates Christ. But then you can also go get the calendars because I thought it was a literally everyday thing because that's all the Advent calendars that you see.
Right.
And I guess originally it did not necessarily. It was kind of a weekly thing.
Yeah, it seems like it.
And then all the calendars come out, and it's like, oh, here's your 24 days leading up to Christmas, and you get to open up a little box and eat a chocolate or whatever.
Right. And there are resources out there for families. We do have a resource for families if you're interested. It's a daily calendar for the entire month of December that tells you something fun you can do that day. And some days it's very, very basic.
Yeah.
But if you want to do something a little special every single day with your family during the month of December, let us know. We have that calendar available to you. I know it's a busy time for families, so sometimes a calendar with 30 days worth of stuff, you're like,
Yeah,
no
you're
thanks.
Like, whoa, easy killer.
Yeah, exactly. But then I know other parents would be all about it.
But at the same time, you're probably not as busy this year as you normally are.
Absolutely.
Because you're not going to Christmas concerts, and a lot of us are not going to the things that we would normally go to. But hey, it's just an awesome opportunity to, again, point your kids to Christ and take as a family. We can so often forget that it's the beginning of the redemption story. It's the beginning of who God was incarnate on this earth. And so what a cool idea. But I did not know the history of Advent. I instantly just attached it to like the Catholic Church or to, like you said, a very traditional kind of liturgical mindset. And it's not that at all. It's just a beautiful remembrance of the coming of Christ. And then I love the idea of thinking about the second coming of Christ. It points you to Jesus being born and Jesus coming back to win it all.
Right.
What a cool deal.
Absolutely.
So, well, hey, that's just our little bit on Advent. Thank you, Randy, for joining us.
Yeah.
Okay, before we leave, I got to ask you the favorite Christmas movie. You said you guys watch it.
No doubt about it. Home Alone, first one.
Always. It's Home Alone is great. Elf is always another good one.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that kind of thing, depending on your age.
Yeah, Home Alone's like the favorite of my childhood. And then Elf is like, the favorite of like my adulthood.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So Home Alone is classic.
It is.
How do you feel about the Christmas Story? A Christmas Story, like the one that plays on TBS all day Christmas Day?
I have mixed emotions about it. I like it on TV. It's a little more hardcore when you watch like the non-edited version, I think it's good. I think it's a classic, but it's a little bit of a downer to me, Oh,
yeah.
It's a little bit of a downer to me. I tell you what I also like is the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Like, that's a classic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I would
Again,
say
more adult.
Definitely more adult.
Definitely more adult.
Haven't watched that one with the kids yet. But I would put that above A Christmas Story personally.
Okay, yeah.
But
I could agree with you.
Again, I think it's generational, though. Some people like The Christmas Story was like the movie when they were growing up. So it's like they're Home Alone.
That's true. It's interesting. I'd love for you guys to comment your favorite Christmas movie. Let's just throw that out there. But thank you for joining us today. This is Advent, and it's cool. And obviously, we're not covering everything on it. You guys can dive into this if you want. But it was just cool to kind of get the history of it and what it means and what it symbolizes. And I know it's reshaped it for me to what Advent is. So, as always, we'll be back in January, Dean and I, with more of a Bible study. But these are Christmas related, and we hope you enjoy them. Merry Christmas. We hope you're having a great Christmas season, and just continue to be the message of hope in the world around you. Guys, have a great week.